They didn't wear uniforms, they didn't hold territory, they didn't fight battles anyone back home could point to on a map. They disappeared into the Burmese jungle, carrying radios, gold coins, and one very dangerous idea. What if you could win a war by teaching other people how to fight it for you? This was OSS Detachment 101. In 1942, Japan swallowed Burma, and with it went everything the Allies needed. The Burma Road was cut. Supply lines to China collapsed. The jungle itself became the enemy. Entire formations broke down before they ever met Japanese troops. Conventional armies couldn't move. Vehicles failed. Logistics collapsed. And here's the uncomfortable truth. No amount of firepower fixed that problem. The solution didn't come from generals or divisions. It came from a small experimental organization most people had never heard of, the Office of Strategic Services. Their answer was a unit so small it barely existed on war maps. Detachment 101 never numbered more than a few hundred Americans. They were linguists, radio operators, demolition men, hunters, teachers, men selected not for how well they marched, but for how well they adapted. One of the most influential leaders was William Pierce, who understood something most armies ignored. Wars are not won by formations, they are won by people. And Detachment 101's greatest weapon wasn't a rifle, it was trust. Here's where everything changes. Detachment 101 didn't try to control the jungle. They partnered with it. They aligned themselves with the Kachin People, mountain tribes who had every reason to hate the Japanese, but absolutely no reason to trust the Americans. So the OSS did something radical. They lived in Kachin villages. They ate their food. They learned their customs. They accepted their leadership. Only then did they train them, not as auxiliaries, not as expendable scouts, but as fighters, as partners. This was the first large-scale American experiment in what would later be called unconventional warfare. Once trained, Kachin Ranger teams, supported and guided by Detachment 101, went to work. They ambushed Japanese supply columns on jungle trails. They destroyed bridges critical to troop movement. They targeted officers and messengers to paralyze command. They rescued downed Allied pilots days before the Japanese patrols arrived. One team waited 3 days in monsoon rain to ambush a single convoy. Another dismantled an entire Japanese battalion's logistics chain without firing a single shot, by killing couriers and cutting trails. Here's the part most people miss. American OSS officers rarely pulled the trigger. They made violence possible at scale through others. By 1944, thousands of Japanese soldiers had been killed or wounded. Hundreds of Allied airmen had been rescued. Entire regions became unusable to the Japanese army. Detachment 101 controlled more territory than some divisions without occupying any of it. This kind of warfare isn't clean. If a radio failed, men vanished. If trust broke, villages were wiped out. OSS teams operated weeks from help. Evacuation meant jungle stretchers and prayer. And when operations succeeded, no one noticed. That wasn't a flaw. That was the design. When the war ended, Detachment 101 was dissolved, but its ideas survived. Veterans like William Pierce carried those lessons into the post-war Army. Small teams, cultural immersion, working by, with, and through indigenous forces. Long-duration operations without resupply. Political effects as important as military ones. By the early 1950s, those ideas crystallized into something new. The United States Army Special Forces. Unlike Carlson's Raiders, who hunted the enemy directly, Detachment 101 built forces that could fight without Americans present. That distinction matters. That is the defining DNA of the Green Beret. Every Special Forces operational detachment, Alpha training partner forces today are executing a concept that was proven first in Burma. Detachment 101 proved something uncomfortable and permanent. America doesn't always win by being the strongest. It sometimes wins by being the most trusted. They didn't chase glory. They didn't chase flags. They built invisible armies and they let them fight. That idea didn't disappear. It just put on a green beret.